you want to become a clinical research associate, you could undertake a CRA1, Clinical Research Associate 1 course, or Introduction to Clinical Research. I think there's two parts to this. One part is the technologies that are moving into the pharma sector, emergent technologies that are going to create efficiencies within the commercialization of new therapeutics, diagnostics, and medical devices. The size of our market is still the constraint. For a biotech, the Australian market is probably not the first one you're going to launch in because it's relatively small. So there will always be a driver for biotechs to go to the US to have a US presence. And the other part of it as well is don't necessarily think of your career as being a linear process where you're going to start as, my career is completely non-linear and chops and changes. I think I've had 3 or maybe 4 careers.
So you want to break into pharma or medtech, but you have no idea where to start? Don't worry. We've got you covered. Today, I'm sitting down with a clinical trials guru, and by that, I mean Tim Boyle. He's a CEO, a scientist, and a career hack machine. Whether you're fresh out of uni, looking for a career change, or a potential investor in biotech, this video is essential viewing for you. And stick around to the end because Tim and I look under the hood of Australian biotechs, and I pick his brains on which Australian biotechs he thinks are going to shake up the industry. So watch to the end because this one's got gold in it.
Now, this second part, we'd love to get some of your advice for newcomers on how to apply for their first role in industry and maybe some predictions looking into your crystal ball on future trends. So yeah, a majority of our audience are looking for their first ever role in pharma. What advice would you have for those looking to enter in, say, pharmacovigilance, reg affairs, your area of expertise, clinical trials, in terms of what skills to highlight, what roles to go for? Are there potential programs that they could do on the side? I think we talked a little bit about some online learning modules.
Yeah, so I think that you're in university and you're becoming a graduate 6 months before you graduate and you're starting to look at what next. I think the thing, I guess I'm biased here, but 100% you should join ARCS Australia. You can join as an associate member if you're a student still. It's relatively cheap. It's under $100. I think it's $75 at the moment. And this opens up a huge opportunity to access a huge library of professional development material through our Cognitio magazine, our online webinars. We have 8 webinars a month spanning across multiple interest area or sectoral occupations across the sector, as well as our getting preferential rates towards our introductory courses. So after sitting in a few webinars around clinical research or pharmacovigilance or regulatory affairs or medical information or any medical device specializations or Asia Pac, there's I think 12 different interest areas we have. You can get a flavour for what those sorts of roles entail, what those areas entail. Then you can sit down and you can create a professional pathway that will help you get where you want to go. So say you want to work in clinical research, you want to become a clinical research associate, you could undertake our CRA1, Clinical Research Associate 1 course, or Introduction to Clinical Research. It's relatively expensive in some respects. It's about $1,000, I think, but it's a 3-day comprehensive course that all CRAs pretty much need to do to be effective in the workforce. And then there's we have a full professional pathway and curricula that you can follow all the way through to getting ACRP accreditation, which is the globally recognized professional accreditation for clinical research. So 100% recommend joining ARCS Australia. The other one is look at the companies that are working in the areas that you want to work in and starting to build relationships. If you know anyone that works in there, starting to have coffee with them, buying 100 cups of coffee and taking that entrepreneurial approach, customer discovery approach to your career will pay dividends every time. And then look at the milk round. I know the big CROs like IQVIA and Novatech, they're in Australia, they have graduate intake programs. They're very highly competitive, but they're a fast track to getting your career where you want it to be. The other option, which is much less travelled, is to do it yourself. and that is to, if you're working in research and you've got something you've been working on and there's some IP there, you might like to take an entrepreneurial pathway, which will potentially take you to being a CEO very, very fast. It's a very, very hard road, but every university now has entrepreneurship development programs. 100% get in touch with those groups on a university campus if you're interested in that in any way. That's the fastest way to grow your career if you have the time and patience for it.
Brilliant. I think just to play back, to make sure I've captured it for the audience. Number one, join ARCS Australia. There's student memberships available. Number two, there's a wide variety of shallow learning, just to sort of see what the different roles are. Potentially few $100s. Then number three is to go into the deeper learning. There's a CRA1 course, which is a 3-day comprehensive course. There's full ACRP accreditation, which obviously costs a little bit more and takes a bit longer, but that's probably the step 3 in terms of when you're quite sure that's where you want to go. Number 4, networking, buy coffee. You and I, we connected for the first time, and I think people in our industry, generally like yourself, very kind-hearted, willing to put themselves, give advice and give back. Maybe except for the gentleman who I spoke to at the conference. Number 5, graduate intake programs. Like highly competitive those. So definitely throw your hat in the ring. Why not? But just know that you're going to be competing against several others. Otherwise, step 6 is do it yourself. And if you've got great IP, bring it to the university.
And the other part of it as well is don't necessarily think of your career as being a linear process where you're going to start as an entry-level CRA and your career will be one straight line to where you'll be when you retire. I think those kinds of career paths are an old way of thinking. The technologies that you'll finish your career with haven't been invented yet. So it's really about taking the approach that maybe I need to do a role that will be a stepping stone into the role I want to be in, or taking a more circular path. But don't be afraid to follow opportunities up as they come along, because it might open a door that you didn't realize it was there that's much more exciting than the one you wanted to go through.
Yeah, completely agree. Being agile.
My career is completely non-linear and chops and changes. I think I've had 3 or maybe 4 careers. There's a common theme through them, but they're in different sectors doing tangentially but different, but tangentially similar crossover skill sets. But that's maybe a much more rounded professional.
Yeah, definitely has.
Okay, quick pause on our interview. If you're serious about breaking into pharma or medtech, I'm very excited to announce Tim has generously agreed to give 3 Finding Pharma viewers free student ARCS memberships. To be eligible to win this invaluable membership to get your foot in the door, all you need to do is comment ARCS 2025 in the comments below. From there, we will draw the winners at the end of the month. And if you don't want to miss future giveaways similar to this that will give your career the ultimate boost, make sure you hit subscribe and join our community. Because let's be real, what's better than free stuff and career hacks? It's a win-win.
Looking ahead, what emerging trends or technologies do you believe will have the biggest impact on the pharmaceutical medtech industry in the next decade? And how can some of these young professionals position themselves to take advantage of these opportunities?
So I think there's 2 parts to this. One part is the technologies that are moving into the pharma sector, emergent technologies that are going to create efficiencies within the commercialization of new therapeutics, diagnostics, and medical devices. These are things like the intersection of robotics and AI and quantum. As these technologies come around, they increase efficiency and time productivity savings. There's I think there's a myth that all innovation in the sector is about drugs, devices, and diagnostics. I think if you look at, especially Australia, we have a service-based economy. The great innovation entrepreneurship that's happening in the sector is happening with those who have founded CROs or consultancy businesses. The exits that are happening there orders of magnitude greater than the pharma deal exits that we're seeing in biotech exits we're seeing in Australia. So I think you need to look at both sides of the coin. If we're looking at technologies that are coming through from a therapeutic or medical device space, I think theranostics or radioligand therapy, definitely the hot emerging area to be involved with. Most of the big deals, big pharma are actively pursuing biotechs in this space. You've seen companies like Telix grow and in 7 years become worth like $5 billion market cap at the moment. Clarity Pharmaceuticals, it's a bit older. It's about 12 years old, I think. I was there at the start. They're $2.5 billion market cap now. So we're talking unicorns, Clarity, and so they're both listed companies. They're not technically unicorns, but we're talking multi-billion-dollar companies, homegrown, in an emerging area, and there's still room to jump on that technology bandwagon. I wouldn't say it's a bandwagon. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah. Super fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. I think even maybe PhD students, this is an area to look into if you want ideas for what to do for a PhD. Yeah, and the Australian government are making massive investments into ANSTO for manufacturing facilities at the moment to shore up supply of radioisotopes. So I think Australia will be a global hub for that sector, or that part of the sector. Completely agree. I was actually speaking to a clinician recently. We were just talking about the tax environment around the attractiveness of Australia. 40% tax cuts for R&D. So I think Australia is a very attractive place for biotech and companies to come and do their research.
Yeah, I think the size of our market is still the constraint. For a biotech, the Australian market is probably not the first one to go launching because it's relatively small. So there will always be a driver for biotechs to go to the US to have a US presence. The silver lining is they do come back because Australia is such a great place to do clinical trials. And I think having a truly multinational environment, I think this argument that we need to develop and commercialise everything onshore in Australia is probably not playing to our strengths.
Yeah, great observation. I agree, completely agree. Now, studies show that liking and sharing this video will reduce your chance of stress and increase your chance of getting a job. I'm only kidding. Sharing is caring though. So if you've taken some insights from Tim and I's chat so far, please do share this with others who you think would find our content interesting. Now, Tim, I'd love to pick your brains with your involvement in the BioBeacon website, and we've been talking a little bit about some of these unicorn startups. I know BioBeacon, it focuses on showcasing Australian life science startups. Which biotech companies have impressed you the most so far, and who do you think is going to be the next potential CSL, Clarity, Telix? I did read an article recently on a British startup. They have actually built this tampon that can also test for STI. So just to lay the platform that, science is pretty cool, right? There's some cool things out there, and I feel like you're very close to some of these cool innovations. Would love to hear, what's on the horizon? Yeah,
as I mentioned before, there's two parts to it. There are the devices, diagnostics, and therapeutics, which are the traditional biotech focus. And in that space, I think there's two medical device companies that I think are really, really going to take off. One is Eudaimon Technologies. They've got a unique material for condoms and contraceptives, and they're doing very, very well. But I don't know if it's going to revolutionise, but I think it's going to be a big company that we're going to hear more and more about as they start to scale and take their product to market. The other one is Rome Technologies, and both these companies were featured in the BioBeacon. They're on the BioBeacon website. We're at the conference last year. Rome Technologies have a portable oxygen concentrator. This basically means that if you're on therapeutic oxygen, that you don't have to carry around the size D oxygen cylinder on a trolley. It's a device that can deliver the same therapeutic rate of oxygen and perform at as good as, if not some potential to perform better than those medical oxygen cylinders.
The giant tanks.
The giant tank. You see people, they're dragging them along, and it's like having a lead ball tied to your leg. And having a device that's not bigger than the old school Walkman, or if you stack 3 iPhones together, but that size and thickness, that you can clip to your belt. This is democratizing mobility for patients that need supplemental oxygen. So I think it's going to be a game changer. But as I mentioned earlier, we do have a service economy in Australia, and the innovation and entrepreneurship that we're seeing isn't just tied to the diagnostic devices and therapeutic space. In terms of technologies, I see that I really, really like in the efficiency space. I think Evrima is a great local Australian technology that's helping clinical trials patient recruitment and accelerating access to clinical trials. There's another one called Omico. This is a genetic screening platform which is helping recruit oncology patients. And again, it's started as it's not-for-profit world, but is transitioning to a for-profit. But anything that helps link cancer patients with potential clinical trials, especially from a personalised medicine approach, I think is a game changer. So they're technologies that aren't necessarily in the go-to market space in terms of devices or therapeutics or even diagnostics. These are tools that help the commercialization pathway or the product development pathway, which is just as important as in terms of efficiency and helping the transition to market or the go-to market for devices, drugs and therapeutics. Because the faster we can accelerate things through the pipeline, the more things we can push through. And the more patients we can treat.
Exactly, yeah. I think what I see these technologies as is the bridge joining patients to the brilliant science that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, and the technologies exist on the other side. We should be using them.
Yep.
And we do work in a highly regulated environment, and as long as the research, the controls and checks and balance, and the regulations are being met, then I think let's accelerate these and let's accelerate product development in the sector.
Yep.
Wow, what a jam-packed interview. There are so many nuggets in there. I would highly encourage you to watch the video again, as I'm sure you will relearn new things as you see the content twice. But otherwise, click here for the final part of our series, where Tim answers your viewer-submitted questions, and we tackle the big topic of gender equality in pharma and why women in life science are absolutely crushing it.